Hey, hello Facebook and hello YouTube. I got you both at the same time. So good, so good, so good, so good. Welcome to Satsang with G. If anyone's having a problem hearing or something, please let me know. I have the board right here, so I can make all the adjustments that are necessary. Uh, yeah, and so let me go here and turn off the volume over here because it gets fed back. Brian Murray, hi, welcome, welcome, welcome. Susan McKinley Schultz, hi. By all means, please say hello. And I love to hearing where people are. I love hearing where you are in the universe. You know, if you're off world, that's really interesting too. Um, so by all means, make sure you can hear me and it's not too loud or too soft. Getting the volumes right is something we've struggled with, trying to do two systems at the same time. So if I'm looking over here, I'll be looking at Facebook. When I start looking over here, it means I'm looking at the people on YouTube. So really wonderful to be here with you all, as always. I really love to encourage people to take time. Encourage people to take time every day uh, to uh, to actually spend some time with themselves. Just kind of watch their own minds, watch their own hearts, watch their own feelings, because it is just so easy to be swept away with the current of things that are going on, that we can kind of not even be with our own life. And the whole purpose of spirituality is not to get to another place. It's not to find some kind of a alternate or expanded consciousness or super consciousness or super duper consciousness. Or its only purpose is to simply open you up to who you actually are. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. I mean, true. You are true consciousness. Conscious isn't something that you actually acquire. It's not something you go out and get. You know, you don't go to some store and buy it. It's a it's a direct experience of what's been here the entire time, and I will keep emphasizing that over and over and over again. But if it's been here the whole time, then why isn't it obvious? Why aren't we just all in our state of bliss and happiness? Well, that actually brings me to the subject of today's class, my little discourse before I open it up for questions. And by all means, if you have questions now, type them in there. I will definitely get them. Um, the subject today is ideas can liberate or enslave. You know, the shape of our world, the perspective. I mean, what do you even call the world? Is an image within your mind. Now, you think the image in your mind matches a world out there, but think about it for a second, right? I mean, almost 8 billion people, right? Um, and how many other different kinds of critters and animals and plants and minerals and all sorts of things. I mean, it's just unfathomable what the world or the earth is. And yet somehow we think this image we're holding in our minds is it. Now, that image we hold in our minds does determine what part of the world you're going to see and what part you're not. Maybe you've heard me say this before, but the amount of information that is striking your nervous system is staggering. The amount of information is approximately 60 billion bits a second. I mean, this constant stream of stuff coming from all of your senses. And I hope I didn't freeze up. I'm checking out here on YouTube, and it can do that. I mean, we're doing the best we can here, but it can do that. It can freeze up. I just had to refresh it over there. But Poppy is from Greece. Which I guess this is a good time in Greece. It's probably about 8 or 9 or maybe 10 o'clock at night. the shape of our world, the world you actually walk to, while your nervous system is actually processing, not just receiving, but processing. It's reacting, it's responding to 60 billion bits of information a second. The cognitive part of us, the part we're so proud of, the part where the ego lives and all of the ideas that we have about life and the like, can process about 60, like 1/10,000th of the amount of information that we can actually do something with cognitively. Is the rest is filtered out. It's processed through various layers of the nervous system. It's always looking on the lookout for danger, threats, as well as opportunities, food and sex. I mean, very, very primitive. And so its number one mission is to keep you safe. That's why you'll notice that when you're, a sound, you hear a sound, you always look. You can't stop yourself from looking. The looking is begun before you even become aware of it. Sound, boom, look, right? Because that's the nervous system that is looking for danger. That's because that's what it does. It's making sure there's no danger. There's no danger. Cool. Is there an opportunity? Is there a shiny object? No shiny object, or no possibility of that. If there is, it'll then put something up in your maybe put something up your head as to what to do, right? And now all of a sudden, food, and you can now cognitively decide, well, I think I'll have some food. Or what kind of food I'm going to have, because there's lots of shiny objects. Primitively speaking, you saw food, you just ate it because you didn't know what was going to come next. So we are inevitably forced into this situation where we are living in a little bubble of our thoughts, which are by their very nature restricted to the information that your mind, that the cognitive part of you is getting. And so we are forced to create symbolic images of this world and believe that that's what it is. Because if we didn't believe any of the images we held of the world, we'd always be in a state of fear. We'd always be afraid. We have to create these, because in the process of creating them, we make some stability. We make it, it's safe. I can hang out here. I can be here for a bit because I'm not struggling now. I'm not always on the alert because there's danger over there. But if you don't know what the world is, if you have no image of that, if everything is constantly shifting and changing, there's a constant feeling of being of fear, because it's like, okay, well, what is this? I've got to be able to do something with this. And of course, the mandate of your nervous system is, first and foremost, stay safe, keep safe, keep keep control of everything. Oh, that element of control is just so powerful. And so one of the ways in which we have done that is we have created images of the world and then inhabited them. So whenever you meet somebody, you may meet somebody who's really bigoted, right? Or like a white supremacist, or totally racist, or they're, a fundamentalist of any religion, or they're a fundamentalist about economic or political. This is the best country in the whole world, kind of thing. This is not rational. This is not something you can have a discussion about it. And I've had lots of comments. I get lots of comments, obviously, because I've got, hundreds of video on YouTube. I post other people's stuff on Facebook and make recommendations, and I see the kind of things that come back. Rarely does somebody actually engage me in an intelligent discussion saying, well, on what basis are you making this claim that this is so? I think it's like this. And it's very, civilized. And we're having a conversation. I really welcome that kind of stuff, because if you can have an open discourse between the two of you, you can oftentimes get at least closer to the truth than you would just by yourself locked in your own little world. And I know what that's like, because my mother was that way. My mother was basically schizophrenic. She was not mentally or emotionally healthy. And so she would really get tightly locked in this little world, because everything seemed dangerous and frightening. to her. So that's, but when there's an openness, there's an opportunity to explore together, if not the ultimate truth, at least a mutual place where both of you can benefit, where both of you can work it out, where we can, I mean, let's face it, we all seek the same thing. We all want to be safe and happy. I mean, it's this isn't complicated, right? And but everybody's got their view, and if they attach their view really, I've been called an idiot. I've been I've been called I've been called all sorts of stuff, right? And when I respond and say, okay, exactly why do you feel that way? Why are you saying I'm open for listening? And what I hear is more of the same, just a diatribe. And that's someone who is stuck in a position. They're in a position. They don't want this belief challenge. They're holding on to it because it makes them feel safe. If I'm aligned with this particular group, even if it's, I mean, if it's like a gang, right? I mean, and they, you know, they murder and deal drugs for a living. There's a sense of belonging. There's a sense of safety. I'm part of this, and we need to feel that part of this. So to step out on the spiritual path is not for the faint of heart. It requires courage, because you're going to be invited to question all the things that you've really believed all your life, and not only question them, but actually examine them. Begin to look and say, well, why do I believe that? And what you'll find is that most of the things you've come to believe, most of the ideas that have been planted in you that you regard as being true, and a reflection of the reality of the world, were in fact planted in you, and they're not true at all. Now remember, if you believe something to be true, your nervous system is going to organize itself in such a way that it actually collects evidence that it is true, because that's how it makes you feel safe. Say, oh, see, this is the way it is. And at the same time, it's going to be filtering out things that contradict it, so that the picture seems to be true and seems to be stable, but it's actually being produced by your belief in it, and not by it's not really what's happening. It's not really what you're experiencing. So people who are very, extreme in their position about anything are not going to be able to see evidence to the contrary. I remember seeing a TV show of a guy who was a white supremacist, and they asked him if he would be willing to undergo a DNA test to see if he was pure white. Excuse me while I take a sip of my drink here. He said, "Fine, I'll do it. Of course, I'm pure white." And they do the test, and I guess the next week he comes back and they have the test. He's like 15% black. Now, he could not accept it. It was okay. Now, if the DNA had come back and shown he wasn't black, which is impossible, you go far enough, we all are. If it had shown that, he would have said, "See, I'm pure white." Right? But because it didn't conform, the little cognitive bias, it didn't conform to it, he denied it. If this was a setup, you guys were setting me up. This isn't real. I mean, he just could not let that in. There was an interview I saw a long time ago with a man who had been a higher up on the national level of the Nazi Party. So he was definitely a white supremacist, racist, the whole deal. He'd done some really, really nasty stuff. But the Nazis, that supremacy isn't all just about blacks. It's also Asians and anything that isn't this Anglo-white, but it's also any kind of defects. Somebody's got a disability or something inferior. And this particular guy had a child, and the child was born mentally challenged. He was autistic. No, not autistic. He was mongoloid or something, very extremely. And he basically was given a choice. I mean, you get rid of the kid or else, or, That's it. He can't belong. You can't do that. And this guy went through hell struggling because he's a dad, right? He's loving his his son, and and he said it woke him up. He just couldn't do that. He couldn't abandon his child for this principle. And bam, it was the pop that busted the balloon. And since then he went around, he wrote a book about it. He's just been doing nothing but trying to basically deprogram people that are lost in that. But look at the severity of the shock. I mean, he was basically put in a position to get rid of this kid anyway. Didn't matter how he did it. It's inferior, right? If he just happens to fall out of the car at 60 miles an hour, or somebody takes him, it doesn't matter, right? How it happened wasn't important, just that it did. And he couldn't do it. I mean, his heart finally broke open. I mean, just I could see it in the guy's face too. I mean, it was just like it was another person than that. But these are the ideas, right? And these ideas enslave us. We are imprisoned in our beliefs, and we don't know their beliefs. We're not only the prisoners, we're also the bars, the walls, and the guards. We are everything because it's our belief in the ideas that we have been fed or picked up or have felt safe to us to have. It's those beliefs that have literally imprisoned us. But what about the other side of it? Can an idea liberate you? Well, since this is a live stream primarily concerned with a non-dual perspective, the ultimate question, the ultimate answer is no. Ideas can neither enslave nor liberate you, because the truth is you are already liberated, and you don't need an idea for that to be true. That's not an idea. You see, the biggest opening, well, one of the biggest, I had several in my life, was when I realized, very early on, I got into this whole spiritual thing, and I wanted the spiritual journey, and I wanted to make all this spiritual stuff happen in spiritual disciplines, and I lived like a monk, and I just did everything, all sorts of austerity, everything I needed to do in order to feed that. And I thought I was going to get to the pure truth. But I was really attached to the idea that this pure truth would be some kind of understanding, something my mind would grasp. And I was just always amazed that I'd grasp something really deeply, be really, really true, and still there'd be this inner stuff going on, this inner conflict. And years later, decades later, it finally dawned on me that the truth was not an idea. Truth was the truth. And it was the experience of life and life itself. It wasn't ideas about life. It was the actual experience itself. I don't need an idea to validate my existence and the fact that I'm consciously aware and that I'm hearing things and seeing things and experiencing things. I don't need any idea for that to be any more true than it is. Now, that, though, what I just said is actually an idea I'm presenting to you. The right use of an idea that's really wise, is one that points you in a direction towards things which are not ideas. I mean, if you see a beautiful flower or a beautiful person or a beautiful sunset or a puppy dog or a laughing child, right? You don't need any ideas. You immediately, spontaneously warm to it, right? You immediately are drawn to it, right? In all sorts of different ways. A little later, the story will start, and you'll start think, oh, how beautiful that was. Of course, even that's innocent. That's using an idea. It kind of it actually feeds into the beautiful energy of what you happen to be experiencing. but the experience itself isn't an idea. That experience is the truth. And I hope you're getting that. The truth is not a concept. It's living. It's you. It's your life. It's not an idea. Now, when you talk about theologies and philosophies and all kinds of things, economics, politics, religious views, and all this stuff, you're talking about ideas. You're talking about representations. You're talking and arguing about what idea is actually true. Joseph Campbell tells the story of being at a World Conference of Religions, I guess back in the 80s. He died in the 90s, I think. And he overheard a conversation. There were a bunch of American ministers and priests and the like, and everybody had just heard the speech given by this Japanese priest of it wasn't really Buddhism. It was kind of a Shinto. I mean, it had a kind of its own thing, because there's many different variations of it. And afterwards, these guys from the U.S., I think one from England as well, were asking him, we really loved the talk you gave. It was just really stirring and beautiful. But you know what? We don't really understand. What is your theology? What's your ideology? And he looks at him and goes, I don't have a theology. We don't have an ideology. We dance. It sums it up, right? Life is a dance. When you're living life, you know it. You don't have to think about it. Now, everything I've just said has been an idea. Everything you communicate is an idea. The skill with words is simply the ability to put words together to convey the idea that points you in the direction of direct experience. This is the skillful means that the Buddha referred to. This is the job of the teacher. It's the job of the teacher to meet the student, to build the bridge over to the student. Show this is how you do it. Here we go. Look over there. There it is, and get them to see it, but to see it for yourself. What you'll see most of the time, people preaching some kind of truth, is they're trying to get you to accept an idea itself as true, rather than point you somewhere where you'd see it for yourself. And of course, the moment you do, you don't need any more words until you turn around and you want to, because it's cool. it's really wonderful. You turn around and you want to share it with others. And then you begin to find words to do that. You begin to let that energy move within you. So I am constantly, in all the courses that I teach at MasterHEART, I am constantly presenting this idea of experiencing directly. The entire deal with inner reconciliation is that I start everything with what I call the yoga of allowing. Now, again, I'm using words right now, right? What is it? Yoga of allowing. So I took the word yoga, which everybody knows, hatha yoga, doing these exercises, getting into a posture, right? Very familiar to everyone now. It's common language now, right? And I combine that with allowing. Now, allowing is simply this posture you can take, an inner posture, where you're simply letting yourself feel whatever it is you happen to be feeling. And the moment you do that, you're going to notice how your mind wants to describe it, how the narrative immediately kicks off. It immediately begins to start to narrate exactly what's happening. So like before, I said you're looking at a flower and it's just gorgeous, and it just takes your breath away. A few minutes later, a few seconds later, wow, what a beautiful flower. God, I love that flower. I wonder what kind of flower that is. Gee, is that like a chrysanthemum? No, 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 it can't be that. It's not the time of year. You know, they had some like this on sale. There was that florist down the street. And before you know it, you're engaged in a story and the experience is actually gone. You're not even in the experience anymore. You're not experiencing anything except your thoughts about it. Now, if we can understand that that happens, it's the discursive mind, it happens all the time. It's going to continue to happen. But if we understand that that's happening and we allow ourselves to to feel, notice that the impulse to describe, to narrate is there, but don't follow it. Say, okay, it's there. Nothing I can do about it. But I'm just going to stay here with this feeling. Oftentimes, it strikes me as just say, thank you. I don't need you right now. And just turn your attention back directly to the feeling. It's so simple, but it's not easy because we have all been trained to go immediately into our minds to explain and narrate. And there's no need to. Matter of fact, it's what takes you out of experience. Now, it has its uses. I'm using it right now. I'm describing as best I can and in as much detail as I can the actual experience itself to point you towards it. Okay? This is the thing that meditation teachers have to learn how to do. It's very subtle because you're describing somebody's inner world in such a way that you're not taking them out of that. You're like leaving them in the midst of that. And you'll find that when you attempt to be in this place of allowing yourself to feel whatever you're feeling, that all of the resistance to it, all of the agenda, all of the chatter, everything about it isn't coming from the feelings. It's all the story laid on after the fact. So I have a particular feeling. The feeling is completely neutral, but my mind says, oh, that's not a good feeling. That's an uncomfortable. We don't want that feeling. That feeling's bad. That feeling gets you in trouble. You don't want to feel that. Let's feel this instead. Let's check Facebook, which is good now because you're watching me. But other times, let's check Amy. I wonder if there's something on Netflix, right? Your mind just doesn't want to go there. But notice that's all the mind. That's all the habitual patterns. It's all the habits and conditions. It isn't in the feeling. This is such a breakthrough if you can grasp it. None of it is actually in the feeling. All of the resistance and fear of it and all of it isn't in it. And the more you do this, more no feeling becomes unpleasant. I mean, they're not pleasant. You know, sometimes it just hurts, your body's aching or something like that. But there's no suffering in it. It becomes a pure, unadulterated, absolutely innocent experience. And that's where you find the gap between the emotional stuff that happens, reaction to the environment, and the trigger that is all of our behavior. This is where you find that gap, where suddenly space opens up, consciousness steps in, and now there's an opportunity to do something that you didn't do before. You actually have the opportunity to choose. You can do something different. Now, at first, you're not going to be able to, right? Because everything's been so automatic. You've just gone with it automatically. So you don't know how else to be, right? You don't have any other way of, what do I do with this then? And that's the beauty of it, because you don't have to do anything. That's why it is the yoga of allowing. You're simply in this posture and experiencing it fully. Now, there's another part of that I call the yoga of wisdom, which is now to begin to inquire, but I won't go into that because all I wanted to focus on today was that every bit of suffering, of failure, of struggle, of feel like being left out, of everything that you have regarded as untoward and unhappy in your life has been produced by the beliefs you have about your experience. Period. There's no suffering in experience. It is only in the mind's interpretation of it after the fact. There was a man who went to. I tell the story a lot because it's just so poignant. Um, who was visiting the master, the sage Nisargadatta, my favorite guys of all time. And after listening to him for a while, he said, "Sir, I really appreciate what you say, the beauty of what you say, but if I'm going to be honest, I am always experiencing suffering." To which Nisargadatta responded, "No, you are not experiencing suffering. You are suffering your experience." Oh my God, what a shift in perspective. What a reframe. Beyond a reframe. It's not, you think that suffering is objective and now you're experiencing, when in fact all that's happening is life, and your suffering is all subjective. It's how you've been trained to react to it. So, how do we learn to react differently? Well, step one, I just outlined. Get the space. Get some space. Once there's some space, you can actually begin to look at what it is that's actually happening, and then look at the reactions and how this whole cascade of conditioned responses actually behaves. And then you'll find the most beautiful thing, that somehow magically you have been positioned right smack dab in the middle. You're aware of life, the world, things happening, emotional responses, and you're also aware now of all the conditioned responses, emotional programs, everything that we struggle against, right? Because we think we can get rid of those, that somehow we're going to, everything will happen beautifully. And it's actually true, but you can't just get rid of them, because they are not thoughts. We're discussing ideas now, and I'm describing a phenomena that we all experience. That is a conditioned response. Something happens in the environment, I react. We have all sorts of associations and triggers about that kind of stuff. We all somebody might say something in a certain way. I mean, every now and then I hear somebody say something, have an inflection that my mother used, right? And something inside me does that. Now I'm aware of it now, and I give it kind of a smile. My freedom from it is not that I got rid of it, but not that it no longer controls me. Now, believe me, there were a whole lot more of those over time. As I react less, as I see it for what it is more, the energy begins to seep out of it. But some of them are in us, very deep-seated. There are some things, reactions you may feel that may never go away your whole life. They've just really been so ingrained in the system that they never go away. I mean, I hear sages, people who are completely free, saying exactly that. They're free because it's not an issue. The reason people try to meditate and they want to try to get the quiet mind is because they're trying to make it be quiet. Guess what? What do you think it is that's trying to get the mind to be quiet? It's the mind. Does this posture of allowing care whether it says something or not? If it's, vocal and going on about something, it simply doesn't care. It has no power. It has no influence. It has no authority. So you simply, there it is. This is the most amazing place to be. And it is the difference between moving towards liberation and moving towards being enslaved. It's the difference. And getting into that place. In Buddhism, they refer to it as the middle way. This place which is neither too tight nor too loose. It's neither too hot nor too cold. It's the Goldilocks zone. It's where the perfect fulcrum, from which everything can be seen just as it is. All right. Let's see here. I want to make sure I have see if I have any questions here. Thank you. Rita shared my video. Thank you, Rita. Good to see you. Good to see you. Jim Wilkins from high school. How are you? And your brother. His brother was one of my closest friends for like a very, very long time. Okay, not a lot of questions today. Um, but I'll take this one up from Shamsa Al S. How can you let go of attachments in this world, mostly to people whom we loved? Love. Attachments, aversions, desire, desireless state, one of the most misunderstood and mistaught of all of the spiritual precepts. The Four Noble Truths of Suffering that were espoused by the Buddha, his first sermon. There is suffering, there's a cause of suffering, there's an end to suffering, and there's a means to that end. And then he outlined the Eightfold Path. And it has been reduced in many of the teachings to simply the cause of suffering is desire. Partially true. But remember, just a few moments ago when I was talking to about Nisargadatta, wish I could, about Nisargadatta, and the guy who said I'm always experiencing suffering, and he said, no, you're suffering your experience. The mistake is that somehow I have to get rid of desire, and desire is causing my suffering. Right? I am, that desire is causing me suffering. Nisargadatta would say, no, you're suffering your desire. Turn it around. Can you live without desire? This idea, the spiritual idea that people promulgate that you achieve this desireless state. Well, in a desireless state, how long would life last? I mean, we're all here now talking because our parents were not in a desireless state. Matter of fact, every critter on the planet is here because their parents didn't. And I'm sure most of you here saw no reason why you shouldn't either, right? I mean, desire is life. It is the juice of life. It is the motivation of life. Life is constantly perpetuating itself. That is what we feel as desire. It becomes attachment when I start seeing this as my desire, my personal desire. This is my desire. It's like, my hair is growing. So I'm going, oh, I'm growing my hair and taking I really have to overcome hair growing. It's that absurd to approach it from that point of view. To be in the desireless state is to simply see desire for what it is. It's the nature of life. Just like your emotions are the nature of life, sensations are the nature of life, thoughts are the nature of life. When you decide that they have to be in a certain way, or they have to go away and leave you alone, or they have to change to fit your agenda, you have attached to them your own happiness and peace, which they don't actually possess. You do. But you have projected it upon these circumstances. And now, of course, you're attached to these circumstances. I've got to get these to happen or I'm going to suffer, right? And you've created the entire thing yourself out of thin air. People think that if I get detached, all desire is going to leave. Nonsense. There are sages and Zen masters who have families, have kids, they're both male and female, right? They have, it's like, so what? Right? Being in life isn't the problem. This is just, this one gets me so much because spirituality has been so twisted to be an escape from life rather than the total embrace of life as life, but not as something that needs to be manipulated for the demands of your ego. That's pure projection. We all have it. Everybody, once you hit puberty, has a desire for sex. Is it personal? Did you make it up? Did you go back one day and say, I think I'm going to have this desire? It just happened. Guess what? All of your desires, it can be from the most base, I'm hungry, I want something to eat, or I want sex, up to the most, I really want to have a better world. I want to make it safe. I want to have, share the wealth among all. I want to eliminate poverty and war. That too is not originating with you. That is also coming directly from life. Life's love of itself. You could even refer to that as God, if you like, because that's the essence of it. It is this one source from which all desires arise. And it's only when I take them on as a personal possession that attachment appears. I have no attachment to what life does. It would be stupid. I can't run the universe. It's doing a fine job all by itself, right? I don't need to. If I get attached to it, I want it to go in a certain way. Now I'm attached and I will suffer. That's what it means to let go of your attachments. The other side of that is letting go of your aversions. Buddha said that there were three main desires. One is the desire to get or to hold on to something, right? The desire to get rid of or avoid something, and the desire to become something. That was the essence of desire. Now look at those very closely. I want to try to get something. Now I'm convinced, because of my beliefs, that this thing that I'm trying to get is going to make me feel safe, happy, prosperous, sexy, intelligent, resourceful. Somehow I get this, and it's going to give me certain qualities. Right? That's attachment. That's the desire. I'm trying to get something externally, and if I don't have it, if I have to get it externally, I am attached to it. There's no freedom from that. There's no way out, right? I got to remember to go back and look at the camera on YouTube. YouTube said there's no way out. And then of course, if I do manage to get it, God, I want to hold on to it until I get bored with it. I hate it. It's like, oh God, I don't like it anymore. I want to go do something else. And now you're avert. You want to get rid of it. Or now, more of it's coming, right? You've been manifesting this, and now all of a sudden more of it's coming in, right? No, I don't want that. That's aversion. I'm pushing it away now. And of course, another one, which is, I want to become someone, which is the underlying belief there is, I'm not enough as I am. That's what's believed. Is it true? No, it's not. None of it's true. Right? The underlying belief is that something out there in the world can give me something that I don't actually have, not recognizing that all the qualities I think it has are actually being projected by me. And the fact that I'm projecting them on the object makes me feel as if I don't have them, when in fact I do. What appears on the screen in a movie isn't appearing from the screen. It's appearing from the projector. The image on the screen of this computer, right, is one with the screen. But the image is not the screen. Let me see if I can put that a different way. When you think this object here is going to make me happy, that belief will make you feel unhappy and motivate you to want to get the happiness. When you are in that loop, when somebody comes along and says, how do I let go of attachment? Or somebody says you need to let go of attachment, it seems absurd. That means I'm letting go of happiness. But the reality is, the happiness isn't in the object you're seeking. The misery isn't in the object you're seeking. It's all here. When you see that, you very naturally begin to let go of it, and then life begins to flow the way it can flow. Some things are going to come, some aren't. Some things are going to come and stay for a while, some are going to come quickly, some aren't going to come at all. All sorts of desires arise in you. All day long, desires arise. They come and they go. Some are big, they hang around. They're more life-defining, okay? we want to get more attached to those, and but take all the attachment away, because ultimately it's the desire is coming from life or God or the source, wherever you want to put it. It's not your personal possession. It's the unfolding of life, which means it has its destiny. And that destiny may be to fulfill itself in some great work or accomplishment, the art or literature or an influence, um, or it may last a little bit and then peter out. It's not up to you. They all have their own purpose. They all have their own life expectancy. They all have their own reason for being. It's not up to you to determine what it is. We would say, we get to live, 72, anywhere from 70 to 80 years now. And we think, oh gosh, my dog will only God, they're old if they live for 18 years, because we're going to outlive them. It seems sad to us. And there's some creatures that live in the ocean, some one-celled animals that live, a couple hours. They're born, they mature, they reproduce, they die. That's it, their entire life. We could kind of look and go, what a purposeless life. Well, we're projecting that all on. That's not purposeless. That's the purpose, right? Some things are born and get eaten, right? Oh, that's tragic. Well, no, it's life. This is the way it works. And if we can truly just accept that, we can find that all of the energy of desire pulsing through you is the energy of life itself. And that means we don't have to fight it. We don't have to deny it. We don't have to use religion to prove that it's bad. We don't say, oh, I can't do that, and avoid it. And at the same time, we're not so attached to it that we're incessantly indulging it. We're free. That's how you're free. That kind of understanding liberates you from both attachment and aversion. Now, it doesn't liberate you from the feeling. If there's something you love in your life and it goes away, you're going to feel grief. That's not attachment. Right? That's to truly feel the grief is to truly accept the nature of life itself, that it's going to come and go. And that actually makes it sweeter. It makes it more beautiful. It makes it, because you appreciate the rarity of it, the preciousness of it. It becomes, wow, it becomes unique in and of itself. I just kind of get carried away oftentimes into silence, because the beauty of it is just so overwhelming. I'm going to check back here on Facebook to see if we have a very quiet crowd tonight. People kind of coming and going. Not maybe I don't know. Maybe it's the Veterans Day weekend and people are out, or that sort of thing. But not getting a lot of questions. So because I'm not on the radio show, I'm not obligated to just keep going on forever. I will keep going. Last time I went over, it doesn't have to be an hour. But if that's all the questions there are, and everybody's gotten what they need, I'm happy to move on. Let me just make another quick round of invitation and do a quick refresh over here on Facebook to make sure I'm not missing anything. I saw a lot of people joining, but I didn't see any questions scrolling by on the camera. Okay, cool, great. Okay, everyone. And this idea and all these ideas that I've been presenting, remember, they are pointers to experience. Because we are so very attached to ideas, because we think ideas is where the truth is, we think the description of something is the thing, right? We think the picture in our mind is the thing, and it's not. What is the thing? The thing is you. That's what we're after. We want to know who we are. We would love to know what the world really is, what's the truth of all these things and circumstances and all the people and all that, but how can you possibly know what's true out there until you know the one that's looking at it? If the glasses if the glasses you're wearing are foggy, it doesn't matter how well we describe this world out here. It doesn't matter because you're still seeing it through the fog. Because you are a key. You are key to what is being perceived. Without really knowing the perceiver, you will never understand that which is perceived. Please get that. There's no such thing as an objective universe. There's no such thing as objective description. There's no such thing as an objective object out there that we're going to get beyond all of our senses and thoughts and ideas and memories and see it as it is. It is your perception. And the only clarity there is the clarity of perception. Then you see things as they are, but when you do, you see them as yourself. You see the perceiver reflected in the perceived. Gina Higgins Adams, can we pick up on close one's energy? Or is this a close one? Oh, yes, of course you can pick up. You're very sensitive to everything. And no, it's not an attachment, right? The attachment isn't our sensitivity. Oh, we're sensitive to everything. I mean, you can feel before you walk into a room whether you're going to be welcome or not, right? And even even when there's no visual cues, right, or anybody saying anything, you can feel it. You can feel an energy of welcome and not. We're really, really sensitive to it. It's natural. It's part of our ability to survive, to sense what's going on around us. If we're attached, we're going to be upset because it's not what we want. If we're not attached, we're perfectly willing to walk into any situation without an agenda and just be with whatever happens to be there. Been in a lot of business meetings and over the years, some kind of tense and the like, and little by little became more and more comfortable with just letting it be. I don't expect it all to be a bliss party. I don't expect everybody to be coming, oh, it's great, we're having satsang, right? We're all going to commune with God. I mean, how many times a day does that actually happen, right? I mean, that's what we make space for it on something like this. So it can have been, business meetings and that sort of stuff. People are reserved. You can sense all sorts of energy. And of course, the closer and more intimate you are with someone, the more that's going to happen. And of course, the more intimate you are, the more other things are there, vulnerability. So the more stuff is going to be triggered. This is the way it works. This yoga of allowing and this yoga of wisdom, if you really practice it, make you literally invincible in those circumstances. They don't touch you. They don't infect you. And as a result, you become powerful, not because you have all this personal power, but because you're not there to promote an agenda. You're there to really be present. People feel that presence. They honor that presence. They're hungry for that presence. And especially in a close relationship with somebody, the only thing that clouds it up is your expectations of what they're supposed to be. That's it, 100%. Every time that energy feels uncomfortable or difficult, it's because you want it to be different. You want them to be different, right? Open up, open up, open up, open up. Let them be who they are. Remember, the thing that got us all messed up in the first place as children was the fact that we were not allowed to be who we are. That has turned on inside, and now we're always trying to do self-fixing on ourselves because we can't possibly accept ourselves as we are. It's the heart and soul of the whole thing. And it destroys relationships and it destroys lives because, in fact, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You didn't fit into your tribe when you were young. When you're young, you can't see that I'm just not fitting. It's not going to work. I'll just wait it out and eventually I'll have freedom. The child doesn't think that. Them good, me bad. Adam and Eve, right? God good, me bad. That's it in a nutshell. And so now we're doing the same thing to ourselves. That's why I call it the self-help treadmill, because we're always trying to fix now, always trying to improve ourselves, get better and better. And then we try to do it to others, right? I love you, you're perfect, now change, right? Right? We do it with our kids because we have no control of what they're going to be like. You give birth to them, they're cute, they're little, they need you totally, and then suddenly it's like, Hey, get off my bed. Leave me alone. I want to, I want to go live with dad, right? I mean, I mean, you have no control over who they're going to be, and you don't want to, right? I mean, it's an open book. It's a brand new thing. If you can come to accept it, all of that's gone. And notice the be very, very clear. Our sensitivity to the energy is natural to us. It's inevitable because everything is actually one. It's all connected. So for you to feel somebody else is perfectly normal. And in fact, that any ambition to be a teacher or a healer, it's key. You have to be able to do it. You have to be able to sense the audience. You have to be able to sense the person that you're with and hold that completely safe space. That's what will make every relationship be everything it can possibly be. It will allow, if you are in a relationship with somebody close, and this is really important for intimate relationships, and you are actively, consciously attempting to give them the space to be who they are and not what you want them to be, you're going to have a happy relationship, and very rare one, because most of them are just laden with our expectations. Cool. I'm getting more questions. Excellent. Let's see. From Marcel. Thank you for amazing thoughts. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Marcel. I love that name. Wanting to figure it out, get all the ideas seems to be one of the major blocks when it comes to realizing who you are. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The mind loves to accumulate stuff, just like people love to accumulate stuff in their lives, stuff on their desk. I mean, look at all the stuff you have on your computer. I've seen people with they'll have like 3 browsers open and they've each got 18 tabs going, right? They never want to just shut something and put it away. We're constantly checking here and here. The mind collects ideas. It collects thoughts. It collects beliefs. Why? Because its fundamental belief, which is a self-image that you hold, collects all sorts of things around to confirm that it's true. So it loves fresh ideas. It'll take in a fresh idea that's different because, oh, look, it's different. But essentially, the main idea, the one that holds it all together, hasn't been altered in the slightest. One common one that I'll point out is the identity that we all go through, get to a point of the spiritual seeker, the one who's seeking enlightenment, right? Now, that's great. It's a huge step forward. Somebody realizes that the energy of real awakening lies outside of our normal discourse, outside of our normal, that it's much deeper and it's much broader than that. The problem with the seeker is, as long as I am the seeker, I can never be the finder. If I get established an identity of seeking, the energy system will become a seeker and it won't want to find. It's almost like, the drug companies don't want to cure drugs. They lose customers. Really. I mean, they're evil, basically. And you could quote me on that. They're evil. They don't want to cure things. They buried cures. They try to get rid of cures. They try to mow down cures because their vested interest is not in the cure. It's maintaining the status quo. That's the way the mind works. It isn't wanting to find because it likes being the seeker. Because to find is to actually replace the mind at the center of your universe with the real you. So yes, thinking that an idea or an insight or a peak experience or a dramatic experience or a deeply spiritual experience of oneness, right? Of the ultimate experience or of the tantric experience. Think any of those are going to show you who you are, you're wrong, because they're all experiences being had by the one you really are. So the problem is the one you really are is behind the lens. You can never see yourself on the other side of the lens. How can you? In order to see yourself, you have to step out of yourself, go somewhere else, and look back at you. At which point, you're not that anymore. It's breathtaking. You cannot see yourself. Can you follow that? You cannot know yourself. A scale can't weigh itself. The knife, doesn't matter how sharp, it can't cut itself. When your eye cannot see itself, your eye has never seen your eye. Never. Oh, I look in the mirror. No, that's a reflection. It's even backwards. And it's a poor version. It's not 3D. It's not, right? The eye's not seen itself. You, the perceiver, cannot perceive yourself. You can't. To perceive, by definition, means it has to stand aloof from it. And you cannot stand aloof from yourself. Folks, you're never going to know who you are. You're the one looking at all the ideas. So the knowing is not in the mind. Because if I can't be anything that I'm perceiving, I'm the one perceiving it, and I cannot perceive myself, all human knowledge just falls away because it's all based on what's perceived. Comparison, association, description about what is perceived. That which is perceiving can't be perceived, so it can't be described. It can't be known in the sense of any kind of discursive knowledge, any kind of objective knowledge. So how do you know yourself? Well, check inside. Do you know you are? Do you know you exist? Do you know you're aware? That's it. That's the whole of it. There's nothing wrong with ideas, as I pointed out right in the beginning. I am doing nothing but giving you ideas right now to try to point you to that which is beyond all ideas. The mind wants to collect ideas. I hear it all the time. Well, yeah, but A Course in Miracles says this, and this, and I was comparing that to what I heard from this other teacher, and this other teacher said this, and that was really interesting. And I heard this Zen guy, and you could just see people collecting ideas, right? And you just kind of go, yeah, but who are you? Right smack to over here too. Right smack dab in the middle. But yes, but those are all ideas you're having. Who are you? Who's the one having it? Who's the one that sees this idea? This idea, oh, that's really true now. And then it's not true. Oh, this is a better idea. I mean, all of that's going on. It's shifting, it's changing constantly. Who's watching it? Who's watching it? Oh, somebody might be on. I'm going to go over back to Facebook again, because somebody might be on the Inner Reconciliation page. Some people are watching it on the Inner Reconciliation page, which would be great. I'd love to have you come in there and like it. It's very, 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 very helpful. Inner Reconciliation. Let's see if I've got some questions over there. So I hope that answers your question about one's energy, and also about ideas, and how yes indeed they can block stuff. If you get attached to an idea, if you see an idea is nothing more than a representation, you won't get attached to it. It's like a picture of even a picture of something that means a lot to you. It's not the thing, it's just a picture. And the only reason the picture has any meaning is because the thing has meaning, right? It's not the picture, this piece of paper with ink stuff all over it. It doesn't have any, on a screen. It has no intrinsic meaning. It's all you. It's all you that you've put on it. Now, somebody did comment, but I'm not seeing any comments here. That's a little frustrating, because if people are making comments on my page and I'm not seeing it, then well, I have another. Let's see. This is from JunkTube 4000. That's a great name. Hey GP, what's your take on catharsis, getting negative things out through expressive art? I also seem to have PTSD on top of this. Cathartic experiences are valuable. They can open the doorway, but they won't of in and of themselves bring about some kind of energetic healing. Um, to know who you are will bring about all healing eventually, not immediately. So don't take it as being the the perfect remedy for everything. Suddenly everything's going to be rainbows and dolphins. It isn't. But the cathartic experience is a means of revisiting territory without the emotional sting. So it's very, very positive. Sometimes things can just be a release of energy. I mean, I back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, really, it was like, the EST approach and, abreactions and trying to work through your traumatic childhood experiences and the like. The process by which you work through them were as traumatic as the event itself. Fortunately, there are much better ways to do that now. The one I like the most is EFT. And I actually worked with combat veterans that had PTSD when I was living in Florida. And it's incredible results of them actually being able to, I mean, some of these guys hadn't slept through a whole night or been able to go to a shopping during the day for 40 years, like since the Vietnam War. And they started to get their lives back just by the process of tapping, which I highly, highly recommended. It's part of what we can bring in, to engage the body so that it isn't just ideas. If you tap here, you're going to feel it. Your body is very sensitive in these places that EFT touches it, and it communicates to a part of your whole energy system that you're safe, that it's okay. These are comfort spots. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to do. I believe that the whole point of art is to express your truth. It's not all about being refined and perfect and all of that sort of stuff. It's perfect if it's perfectly expressing your truth. And so, yeah, I mean, I remember, before I was as well versed in energy healing and the like, as a songwriter and a musician and a composer, I would, some piece of music would come up to be written and I would just weep. I mean, it would be very cathartic. I mean, it's because there was just this opening in my heart that would take place that let me really feel in that situation. I could really feel my grief. I could feel my pain that I couldn't feel in my normal life. I had buffered against it so I could be, functional in life and all that. And so art can do that. The problem with cathartic experience is if they're not guided correctly, they tend to just be kind of, they be kind of self-perpetuating. There's a moment of relief, but healing really hasn't taken place. The real root of it hasn't been gotten to. But if when that opening takes place, there's the skill and the capacity to go even further into it, to go right to the heart of the wounded part that's been dying to express itself. You can, and provide it safety, provided an environment which it's okay to express itself. Now you've actually opened up the door to deep healing. It happened to me just recently. Some things were coming up and I just let my body move and it was just doing all sorts of stuff. But obviously there was still some trauma stuck there and it physically needed to release itself. So I was like standing on my head, I'm rolling around. Okay, I was in a setting where that was supposed to happen. That kind of processing was supposed to be done, and I let it happen, and there an enormous feeling of relief because it was just all this energy, right? That's what a trauma is. It's energy that's supposed to go into fighting or running away that can't go into fighting or running away because you can't. If you're a child with your parents, you can't run and you can't get away. And so that energy has nowhere to go, but it has to be discharged. So it gets stored somewhere in your body. And we feel this as trauma and negative patterns and right, all that kind of stuff. So when an opening like that can take place in the right setting with the right guidance, you can actually let that energy really go. And it doesn't have to repeat itself. So the cathartic event doesn't have to happen over and over again. And it goes deeper and deeper to getting right to the essential wounding that caused it in the first place. Junk Tube said, yes, all the negative things I express are injected with large doses of humor. Well, yeah, excellent. And he spells humor with a O-U-R. So you are not in the U.S. You're in the UK. Very good. Um, yes, the appearance of humor means that you are beginning to get some distance. The heaviness, the drama is being lifted. Right? Yeah, you still feel it, right? But with humor, there's less story, there's less narrative, there's less to perpetuate it, there's less to make it, more of the same. And in fact, it becomes exactly the opposite. It becomes cathartic. It becomes to open up more space because it is just Canada, Canada, um, because there's enough room there for it. Right? We're tight down like this. Catharsis kind of injects itself, but as that just kind of opens up, catharsis isn't necessary, right? You're constant because it's only there because we're not used to letting energy flow. If you get used to letting the energy flow, it's just doing it all the time, right? And so life itself isn't compounding. Old traumas are being released and no new ones are being created. That's just really, really important. The trauma, most of them happen when we're young, because when we're young, we really are powerless. We cannot fight and we cannot flee. And the ones who are supposed to be our caregivers are more or less successful at it. Some are horrible at it. Some are better at it, but none of them do it perfectly, right? And so when we can't resist the environment, we can't fight it, we can't get away from it, traumas are created. That happens in adulthood too. Happens in, difficult relationships where you just really don't want to let it go. You swallow more than you should. It happens all the time. Anytime we're in a position where we're powerless and don't have any control over our own fate and we can't get out of it, boom, that's the trauma. Now, the more you are in the state of allowing and the more harmonized you are, the more you are just really being and allowing your feelings to be your feelings and not creating stories about it, traumas don't happen. You can you're easily in a position, even if you can't fight and you are powerless to get out of it, your internal power to simply be present without an agenda is all that it takes, because you have a different kind of power. It's not the power over circumstances, it's the power of pure presence within all circumstances. Very, very big difference. All right. I thought we were going to quit early, and now it's 5:12. So one last call if anybody has any questions. I've noticed Facebook, for some reason, it doesn't seem that way here, but it does seem to be kind of coming and going over here. And I'm not seeing any comments on the page. Oh, wait, can we pick up? Oh, yeah. Okay, saw that one. Oh, that one just appeared that I saw over there. But I can't see any of that. Just Marlene saying hi. Hi, Marlene. Good to see you. Scott, so good to see you. Pat, my nephew, wonderful to see you. So let's see. Any more questions for me to take up before I call it an evening and get on the rest of my evening? Wow, it's gotten dark. Maybe you noticed the light has changed as I've been sitting here. It's gotten dark outside, so there's no light coming from this end. I have a big light over here. So, well, if that's it, if that's all on the questions, just one more quick round. Check over on Facebook. Thanks from Gladiator GP. What do you think about astral projection? I think it's actually our consciousness or spirit, if you like, leaving our body. I mean, that's who we really are. It's very different from lucid dreaming. Agreed? Yes and no. Yes, it's different. It's a very different experience, but it's still an experience. You can't leave your body because you were never in it. Astral travel assumes you're in your body and now some other form, more ephemeral, is leaving it. You're not in your body. Consciousness isn't in the body. The body is in consciousness. That's the non-dual point of view. It's very different. The experience of feeling liberated from the body and floating around, going and visiting other places, is the experience. We then interpret that experience to mean I have left my body, because the fundamental belief is I'm in my body. I want you to challenge that belief. Are you really in your body? Is that really true? Think about it. It's an idea we have. I'm experiencing a body. Am I really in it? This idea, I am the body, is the essence of the personal sense of self. It's the essence of the ego. Because if you believe yourself to be the body's future, its destiny, its characteristics, all of it are you. Notice, whether it's astral travel or a lucid dream or an ayahuasca trip or anything, it is being experienced. It isn't here permanently. What is experiencing it? And notice that what is having the experience is here permanently. It isn't going anywhere. It's not traveling anywhere. It's not dreaming. It is watching the show. So I'm not trying to push it away or say it doesn't have value or use. What I'm pointing you towards is that all experiences, even the most magnificent experiences, are just an experience. You want to know the experiencer. Pam Griffin asks, I am disassociated from my body all the time. I can feel my body, but it's distant from me. Any suggestion? Yeah, the yoga of allowing. The idea that the body is distant from you rather than visceral and pleasant is a thought you're holding about it. And that thought is, of course, there because the mind wants you to feel separated from it. I'm sure that sometimes in your past, when you were young, something happened that really wanted you to disassociate from your body, maybe some kind of an abuse or some kind of thing that made the body something you wanted to be disassociated. It's okay to feel it, but at a distance, rather than to really feel one with it. So spend time just with the feeling. And when the thought comes, it seems distant to me. Well, is it? That's an interpretation. Is it distant? I mean, what you're feeling right now, is it distant? I mean, are you feeling something over there? You're feeling right here. The feeling of the body is right here. It isn't distant at all. Now, your mind wants to make it distant. For some reason, some energy somewhere that got traumatized wants to keep it at arm's length. But you don't want it to be at arm's length. You don't need it to be at arm's length. So stay right there. Stay right there with the feeling and notice that the feeling is right here. Your body isn't distant. And then notice how the energy system, the nerves, the mind reacts to that. Notice how it kind of resists that. Notice how it doesn't want to get close. And just let yourself be right in the middle. Eventually, with a little patience, maybe a little guidance, whatever it is that drove that energetic position to want to keep the body distant will eventually come up and dissolve, and you'll be free. I'm frightened to be in it, right? Okay, but you are in it, right? So this thought, I'm frightened to be in it, is that coming from the body? Your mind, for some reason, is frightened to be in it because it's associated being in the body with some kind of pain or experience you had. Now, we don't have to dig up the pain. The energy system is so smart, we don't have to dig it up. We don't have to go witch hunting here to find the original event and discharge the trauma and all of that. That's the beauty of inner reconciliation. You don't have to do any of that. You simply give it the space. The energy will do the rest. It'll do everything it needs to do. But I'm frightened to be in it isn't you speaking. That's the mind that doesn't want to be in it. It's the energy that has taken this position. Notice That is a thought that presented itself to you. I'm frightened to be in it, and made you feel afraid. And you, on the other hand, are aware of the fear, you're aware of the thought, and you're aware of the body, and they're all right here. The body isn't anywhere else but here. And it's quite calm, and it's quite okay. So just put your attention on the feeling and just notice the thoughts. And then tell me what happens. Chrissy, I am coming home to that infinite heart. Yay! I can vouch for you. Quietly, patiently, tenderly awaiting my return. It's beautiful. It's even poetic, yes. Quietly, patiently, tenderly. You know, we beat ourselves up so badly, and it's so good to see this, Chrissy, because when we first met, you beat yourself up all the time. And it's just so wonderful to see that gentleness towards ourselves begin to emerge, gentleness towards the body, gentleness towards our feelings, even gentleness towards the thoughts, and not fight with them like we have to get them to shut up in order to feel free, right? It's enormous gentleness as your attention goes deeper and deeper towards the center of you, and that center is the return home. It's where you came from, it's where you're returning to. Mike Albano, I don't remember seeing you before. Hello. I get sleep paralysis a lot, very lucid and disturbing. Well, yeah, it is. And again, it's very difficult for me in a forum like this to give a direct uh, consultation on something like that, because I'm not a doctor, and I get in trouble if anybody thinks I'm trying to pretend to be a doctor. And sleep paralysis is severe. It's not something you take lightly. Um, so that uh, so I would never suggest you do anything different than what you're doing, except that I would invite you to, before you go to sleep, to go to that place in your mind. Use your mind to go to that place, the experience of being paralyzed in sleep, and then watch what feelings come up. So it's very lucid and disturbing, but let those feelings be there, because paralysis, if you look at it metaphorically, paralysis is this, right? The immovable object meets the irresistible force, right? It is two sides of equal power. Boom. And they're at a stance, they're at a stalemate. So there's something inside of you that is trying to protect you from something, and there's something else inside of you that is trying to be liberated. And my experience metaphysically is that that's where paralysis comes from. So the first step is to go right into the heart of all the feelings that are associated with this, and begin to let yourself feel them fully. Right? And notice how you don't want to do that. All you want to do is find the remedy to get rid of it, right? Which is, of course, part of this, right? If I want to get rid of it, I'm intensifying the conflict. So begin to dismantle your conflict with it. Okay, it's there. It's there for a reason. My nervous system isn't stupid. It doesn't make stuff up just to make my life miserable. It's there for a reason. Okay, I'm going to drop my side of the conflict. I'm going to stop fighting. I'm just going to go there. Okay. This is really disturbing. I wish this wasn't happening, but it could happen again. Okay. Right, so this is how I feel about this. Now, this may seem like it's insignificant compared to the magnitude of the problem, but it isn't, because you've just opened up a door for the energy that has been stuck, paralyzed, begin to relax. It's protecting something extremely important, right? Some deep trauma or wound or vow from this life or another. That's why it's there. That's why it's adamant. It's holding on. And of course, the more you push on it, try to get rid of it, demean it, belittle it, the more it's going to feel that sense of threat. There's the conflict. If you stop this, there's nothing for it to fight against anymore. And it will eventually open. Maybe not immediately. Could be immediately. But it will eventually open. Something like this, especially because there's a physical component to it, the sleep paralysis is physical. The whole body is shutting down. I would also, if you know anything about EFT, I've got dozens of videos on YouTube that are about EFT. I actually just started a whole new EFT channel on the MasterHEART Institute. Go to mhicourses.com and you'll see down the thing, the tapping channel, which is all sorts of training and stuff about EFT. But I would recommend that for you, because I don't do it like most people do it, which is just, basically they're trying to get rid of the particular symptom or malady. I do it to help communicate on a very physical level. I'm safe. You're safe. That's what this does. When you're tapping on the EFT points, the limbic brain, a part of the nervous system, is interpreting that as comfort. I won't go into all the EFT stuff, but that's what happens. And so as a result, a message of safety is physically communicated through touch, and we are creatures who love to be touched, for sure. See, Pam said it. Going back to there. I'm frightened of it. It really hurts. Again, yeah, that's okay. It's not. It can't hurt you. Notice that your mind is turning it into a really big deal, and all you want to do is to be consciously present with what is already present. It's not like it's distant and now going to come close. Distance has simply been a mental way of trying to disassociate from it. And you don't need to disassociate from it. It's right here. So does it really hurt, or does your mind just keep telling you that it hurts? And if there is pain in the body, isn't that, when you hurt, don't you want somebody to come and help you, comfort you? So if there's pain in the body, if there's something that's hurting, go to it. Go to it. Say, oh my goodness, what do you need? What do you need? What can I do for you? How can I help? Really be a friend. See how long that pain lasts. Junk 2 began. Let's see. I had sleep paralysis when I was younger. One night when it was happening, I told the thing to come closer. I welcomed it. It went away and never came back. Yeah. Right. Because, if it's come back now, it's okay. It needs more of that attention, that welcoming it. The name for that, the real name for that, is unconditional love. That's what it is. You're actually loving without condition. You don't have any standard. Well, I will love you, but you got to feel better. You can't make me so uncomfortable. Right? We do that to our kids and our lovers, right? Well, you can't. That's making me very uncomfortable. You can't do that. It's like, it's your problem, right? I mean, if you want to be intimate, you have to be you, right? Being being accepted or rejected as you, not as something you're pretending to be. You should never have to pretend in a relationship. It could take time for that level of intimacy and trust. It shouldn't be instant. Rarely it happens. It does happen occasionally, but it's rare. It takes time. A little more comfortable, a little more trust. You share a little bit more. You see the response. You establish an environment in which you both are going to get triggered. Okay, it is going to happen. So are you mature enough to actually be with and own the trigger and not push it back on them? I just recently had something like that happen and realized I had been pushing it on them, and shook me up for 3 days. I just, didn't realize I was doing it. Didn't realize I was doing it. It's very subtle. It happens. It becomes so automatic you don't even think. It gets an identity behind it. You can even get some smugness and condescension. Oh, look, why don't you just get better? Why don't you just be better? It's like, oh, man. You want to give yourself the finger. It is the same in external relationships, same internal relationships. There's this world going on inside of you. And it's a beautiful world. It's an utterly beautiful world within you. But it has been mischaracterized, mispresented, and misunderstood. Mike Obano, thank you very much. I appreciate the invite. You're very, very, very welcome, Mike. This is great. This is great. And who are you? GP, I meant thank you. You really help us. Oh, who are you? Is their screen name? Thank you. This is like I'm so glad to have people to help. I mean, it kind of goes two way. I can't be a teacher if there are no students. I mean, I can't be a healer if there's nobody to heal, which is great. My mission is to put myself out of the business. So the world's full of gurus, and we don't need any teachers at all. And that would be just fine. Okay, it is now 5:30, and I think it's time to kind of bring it to a close. So, even if I didn't answer a question specifically towards you, believe me, ideas, the beauty of ideas is that they're not really fixed. If we think they're fixed, we're attached, we get stuck, and now we're holding on to them doggedly. The reality is that the same thing can be expressed in many, many different, the same essential meaning, the essential experience can be expressed in many, 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 many different ways. All sorts of different ideas to point you towards the central experience. And everything I share with one person about one person's question is for everybody. It will meet what you need for now, for today, in this moment. It will meet it. I guarantee it. Because it all comes from the same place. An idea has, I like to say, the words carry the word. The word is the truth. The truth is energetic, it's spiritual, it's living, it is life itself. Whereas the words they come and go. They're just a momentary expression. The wire isn't the electricity. This mouth isn't producing the ideas that are, and the meaning that I'm conveying. That's coming from someplace else. And it's not your ears that are hearing me. It's you that's hearing me. It's you that it's sinking into. You're the consciousness that is aware of everything. And to that consciousness, everything is simply its experience. Experience changes constantly. It is the nature of the dynamic expression of the one as a universe. But you, the one who's aware, never changes. It's never born, never dying, always the same, imperceivable, unknowable, pure being that you know because you are. Good night, everybody. I love you all. Till next time.